what happens is you go to these beautiful places, you stay there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you come back home, and then what's waiting for you? Your job, your job and other responsibilities, just life in general. So you forget about that dream. And what the pandemic did for us was it sat us down long enough to.
Friends, today we're going to introduce you to a whole new place that you probably haven't even considered moving to, that is inside of one of our favorite countries. Welcome. This YouTube channel is called ExodUS Summit. On this channel, we help Black women take sabbaticals and career breaks, move abroad, bop around as a nomad. If you're interested in these things, make sure that you're subscribed to this ExodUS Summit YouTube channel, and then stay tuned for this amazing conversation. We're going to meet some people who are living such a beautiful, lovely life that is not as far out of reach for you as you might think. My name is Stephanie Perry. I'm one of the co-creators of ExodUS Summit. And please meet.
I'm Rashida Dow. I am the other co-creator of ExodUS Summit. This is our 5th year hosting the summit. We're very, very excited about it, but we're equally as excited about bringing you one of the first men to ever grace our channel. One of our favorites.
Yes.
We're bringing you Gene and Andrea Hayden, who we are so excited to have with us, who are coming to us from their lives in Coimbra, Portugal.
Yes.
All right.
Welcome, friends. Introduce yourselves, please.
Well, my name is Gene. This is my wife, Andrea, and we live in Coimbra, Portugal, a beautiful, quaint, probably the 3rd largest city in the country. It doesn't get as much press as Lisbon or Porto, but it is a beautiful city. It is the university city.
It's the famous university
of Portugal.
It's one of the oldest in all of Europe.
And we're enjoying the life here. For us, it was a great landing spot when we started our move abroad.
And we've been here about 21 months right now. It's about 21 months.
Time is moving fast.
It is.
Last week. What are you talking about?
No, I feel the same way. The time has just gone by so fast. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so you sound like us. So you are from the United States.
Yes.
You have
We're
moved
from
to
San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio.
Yes, Gene is originally from Houston, but we moved from San Antonio, Texas.
Okay. Great. So that means you moved to Portugal because you won the lottery, and
No.
How were y'all able to make this move?
Okay, so where do we start? We came to visit Portugal in 2019 for the first time.
Okay.
And long story short, Gene has had an uncle, his dad's only brother, that moved to Portugal 43 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's been living in Portugal this entire time. And it was the first time we came to visit him in 2019. And so I think the seeds was planted at that time about moving to Portugal. And 6 months later, the pandemic hit. And like many other people, it changed our lives forever. It gave us time to sit and think about the possibilities. After we moved past the fear of COVID and everything that everybody else dealt with, we actually lost Gene's uncle to COVID during that first 8 months of everything happening. And, but we had time to really spend together to think about what our next move was going to be and to start realizing our dreams, And so we knew that seed had started to flourish from 2019. I think take it from there. I mean, that's how I feel.
Basically, we got to the point where we always wanted to live overseas.
Okay.
We had traveled, we've been married 26 years. And we've always wanted to live overseas.
Okay.
But what happens is you go to these beautiful places, you stay there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you come back home, and then what's waiting for you? Your job and other responsibilities, just life in general. So you forget about that dream. And that what the pandemic did for us was it sat us down long enough to, Andrea was an entrepreneur for 40 years. So she was always, doing her thing.
And we were anchored because of my business, my brick and mortar location.
Right.
As much as we dreamed and went to all these wonderful places, even coming to Portugal in 2019, we came back, we planted these seeds, but I was still anchored.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic changed that for me, because for me, I live with some pretty serious autoimmune issues. And so the pandemic for me was a game changer because it forced me to make a decision to retire, because I had already been putting it off. I've been in the beauty space for years, and I was really I had put retiring off for about 5 years because I deal with clients that I've had for many, many years, and just the guilt of it all. But the pandemic, we made the decision. I mean, I wasn't going to lose my life behind the pandemic. So we had to make some decisions. And in that decision, it untethered us. Now, we didn't realize that at the time because it was more pressing issues that we had to deal with. But as that time went by, we realized that was the first time that I had freedom to even dream a different dream. Yeah. And then have the space and the time to put legs on those dreams and start to move towards action. And then the action was researching. And you don't know this, but you all played a huge part, so take credit, because when I started researching, because the family, people think because we had family, but you have to understand, Uncle Lester married a Portuguese woman, Isabel. His daughter's Portuguese. They know nothing about the United States in the process, so they couldn't help us. Yeah. So the first research that I came upon was ExodUS Summit in 2021. And I was able to get information about moving to Portugal and saw Gail being interviewed. And Gail ended up being my relocation specialist.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
She is really instrumental in us moving, because she held me together, because I'm the type A, needed to make sure everything. And it was a big, big process because we had a big life that had to shrink down.
Yeah.
And she held our hand through that process. But it was because we found her through researching and finding ExodUS Summit. And so, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I love that. All right. So, Jean, you had family in Portugal pretty much most of your life, right?
Yes. My uncle, like I said, my uncle left when he was 18. He actually left the U.S. when he was 18.
Okay.
So he migrated down to Mexico first because he said that's the easiest place he could get to.
Mexico City.
For the least money. He lived in Mexico City for, I think my aunt said 5 years.
Okay.
Migrated through Central America, ended up down in Argentina where he got his degree. And then in Brazil, spent the majority of this time before he went to Portugal in Brazil. Mm-hmm. And then approximately 43 years ago, when he finally came to Portugal, that's where he settled roots in Portugal.
Now, you said you wanted to live abroad for a long time. Do you think that played a role in kind of like?
Did.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Definitely did, because the biggest thing for us was I could live anywhere. I'm retired military. I've lived in other countries before, and you could put me in a box in any other country.
It was me.
Yes.
Who had the concerns. Okay. And when we came to Portugal and met his family, because he hadn't seen his uncle since he was 10 years old,
Yeah.
And the 2 times he came back to the States, Jean was off living in a different country. And so once we came and I fell in love with his Portuguese family, I just felt this sense of comfort, because it was always me. Whenever we would talk about living abroad, I would always say, but what if I get sick? What if I'm abroad and I get sick and you're by yourself trying to deal with it? And instead of thinking like we know now, what if I get better living in a different country? I never said that. I always had this loop of, what if I get sick? You know, what if I live with lupus? I live with some, you know, pretty serious autoimmune, invisible illnesses, whatever you want to call it. And I was always saying that to him. And so coming here and meeting his family, not that I wanted to be a burden on them, but it was just something that made me feel more comfortable.
Right.
But it was the pandemic that really shifted my mind. Seeing some of our friends and colleagues and family members, losing them to COVID, it changed my whole perspective on living sheltered in the way that I was in this bubble of protection, because I had all my dream team that I had developed of doctors and practitioners and everybody that helped me with my self-care. So the pandemic really broke that for me and helped me to shift my mind to, I can do this. If I get the right professionals to help me to transition my medical care in a very safe, you know, vetted way. And so we use the medical concierge company to help us to do that, because I couldn't land in Portugal without my healthcare already being bridged, already having doctors already set up for me so that I could have lab work. You know, I take medication like blood thinner. So like I need to have lab work. It's not an option, you know? Yeah. And so those things started happening, working with Gail, working with the medical concierge company and other support professionals. It all helped me to be comfortable with this transition. And so if you ask anyone in our lives what they were most shocked about with us making the decision to move, it would be the thing that they asked was, oh my God, you're selling your house, you're selling all your stuff. And the second, you're leaving all your doctors, you know, because, you know, I'm a big medical advocate for things and sharing so that people know that they can do it as well. But in my previous life, you know, anything that I could share to help people know that whatever thing that they was dealing with, that they could overcome it, because I've lived it. And so, yeah, the pandemic shifted my mind. For him, he was ready to go no matter what. It's like he didn't care, sell the house, you know, whatever. And so, yeah, I made peace with that. And I'm glad that I did, because I have, in Coimbra, actually, the decision to land in Coimbra, we needed a soft land. I could not go to Porto and Lisbon. It was too noisy, too loud, too everything for me to land. This was such a major move for me. Yeah. You have to understand, he could move and live anywhere. He has in the past. And so we needed something softer. And Coimbra, once I started to deal with the medical concierge company, the thing that I needed to feel comfortable is what I told the doctor who owns the company. I said, I need to feel comfortable right now coming to this new country. I need a major medical trauma center within 15, 20 minutes from where I live. That's what I need right now. I may not always need that, but it's that security blanket. And he said, well, that's easy. You have Porto, Lisbon, and Coimbra. Okay. And Coimbra is known as the city of doctors. It's known as the city of heals and the city of doctors, because the majority of doctors in Portugal go to this university that's in Coimbra.
Oh, so when you told us, we were just floored when you told us that you were in Coimbra and not Lisbon, because we just default assumed that y'all were
everybody. Yes.
And then that was the next thing I thought. I'm like, I would assume that you would go to one of the two bigger cities because of the healthcare. It's really interesting to know that Coimbra was a good choice for you. Coimbra, yes, the city of hills. It's funny that Portugal calls it the city of hills because all of Portugal is hilly.
Exactly.
I haven't been to Coimbra, but I got a little scared when you said that, because I'm like, if they're the city of hills, what I experienced In Lisbon, are those not hills? What?
And the hills are really up towards the university where we live. We live right at the riverfront in a beautiful condo, and it's the flattest part of the city. It was something else that was important to me where I landed. And a fun fact about Coimbra is it's the only city in Portugal that has enough doctors for its population.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I want to touch on this. What did you call them? The medical concierge.
Yes. Company. Yeah.
How did you find them? Did they specialize in Portugal? What do people need to know when looking for a similar service?
Okay, so in my deep dive research and being in some of the private groups, not ExodUS, but Portugal has some groups where people are doing a bunch of chatting. And I kept seeing the name Serenity come up. And so, I took that, did my own research about it, and reached out and scheduled an appointment. Like right away, they wanted to sign you up, but I'm like, no, I need to speak to the CEO, the owner, whoever, so I could get an understanding if they can handle what I'm bringing to the table. And thank God I did. I mean, Michael was amazing. And I just told him what my issues were. And when anyone signs up, they get assigned an RN to go through their whole history. So we did that on the phone, and I started to tell him, not so much with my fears, because I had started already moving past the part of fear. Now it's more action, like this is what I need to feel comfortable to keep moving forward.
Okay.
And so he made me feel very comfortable. What they specialize in is not only helping you transition your medical care, they help you even navigate the insurance, the private insurance. Okay. They help you to understand dealing with the public in hospitals. Okay. And they also help you to locate English-speaking doctors.
Okay.
Who are vetted and top in their field with the different specialties, like with me. Yeah. And so that was so key to us feeling comfortable with this move to Coimbra, because trust, Coimbra was not on our radar. It was not like, oh, I want to move to Coimbra, but the fact that it was a soft land, and to find out that it's the only city that has enough doctors for its population, it doesn't have these long waits, to get in, like in some areas. I don't know about Lisbon, but I do know that Coimbra is the only city that has enough doctors to deal with the population. Yeah. And so what I would say for people who are looking for this type of company is do research in the groups of the city or the country where they're moving to see if anything like this exists. It's a medical concierge service, and that's what it's considered. And I would then, hopefully there are other companies like this in other countries. But I know for me, I have referred their service to a lot of people, because whether you have come with autoimmune issues that need immediate transition, I have shared to people, like, you don't need to wait in a foreign country to identify what your needs are going to be. You need to already be connected with medical practitioners. So if you show up there in the middle of the night with whatever, someone knows you. There's some record there, with your history, and start to build those relationships,
How has healthcare been? So they helped you with this transition. You're in this major, the city with the major trauma center, all the doctors, but are you getting good care?
I am. I mean, it's absolutely imperative. It would be a game changer for me. So absolutely, I love my doctors. Like I said, we landed, having appointments. It was funny, while we met lots of people in Coimbra and started, developing new relationships, and people were wanting to invite us, because people are still in vacation mode when they land. And we were like, no, we have appointments. They didn't understand how I had so many appointments so soon. But like I said, they start to bridge your care way before you get here.
Amazing.
And so I have amazing doctors. I love my specialists. And I have no complaints whatsoever. And I love my doctors back in Texas. But, you know, it's something to be said about a new, fresh pair of eyes taking a look at you. Because I've had some doctors 15, 20 years, you know, all these things. And I held on to that. And I credit them for, you know, taking care of me all these years. But now I have doctors who they had to look at me, you know, as a new person and look at my conditions and not make any assumptions and, you know, to start to build out their medical plan for me. And of course, you know, they take on a more holistic approach.
Yeah.
You know, some of the stronger meds that I was on for, say, pain, they were like, why are you taking this? We don't even prescribe this in Portugal for pain, you know? So there is a big difference. And we were very happy to know that some of these things that I was taking, I really didn't need to take, you know? And so I love the doctor and the medical team that we've developed. Not only have I developed a medical team, I have physiotherapists, I have a full fitness squad. I mean, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. Yeah.
I would actually love to hear from both of you how living in Coimbra has impacted your health. It's not the doctor part, just the life in Coimbra, impacted your health versus life in San Antonio.
Yeah.
I guess I would say that coming here, for me, it was all about finding my peace. And it's not that I didn't have a nice life back in the States, but for me, I was still working. During the pandemic, I worked all the way up until 2 weeks before we left. She handled most of the process, everything that we were doing, all the research and everything. This is the first time she hadn't worked. You know, she hadn't been working for 2.5 years of the pandemic. That's the first time in 40 years she hasn't worked. And so the whole point was she always told me, you work, I'll research. And plus she couldn't leave the house. So for me, the health part was finding my peace. I go to the gym all the time. I love walking. And then there's just not that constant worry about trivial things. And when I say trivial things, you just never know what's going to happen around the corner. I know a lot of people can say this wasn't the primary reason we left, but you always had concerns about things could happen. You never knew what was going to happen around the corner, good or bad. And for me, again, part of the reason I've always wanted to leave and leaving was always finding my peace. So I could relax, so I can enjoy life in general. So I didn't have to wake up every morning at the same time every morning and doing the same job every day of my life. So that was my peace. That's how my health got better. That's how, you know, I go to the gym on average 4 days a week. If I had my choice, I would go 7 days a week and just do that all day, because the gym is my peace. I love going to the gym. That's the one thing that I love doing other than traveling for us. And so we also go together. Andrea goes about 3 days a week, and that's part of her health journey. But for me, it's just peace. I'm calm every day. I have to keep her calm most of the time. From the start of this process till now, I still have to keep her calm. But that's the main thing. For me, it's just finding peace.
And two, he worries a lot about me. And so as I'm settling into our life and our routine and, you know, I'm happy about the things, it makes him happier because he can release some of that stress.
Yes.
Because he hovers, you know, and I appreciate that. But for me, I didn't land and feel the peace right away. Because I am a recovering type A, you know, and so just kind of learning how to release some of those self-inflicted, you know, things that we take on, you know, not only as an entrepreneur, But just having that type A type personality, when I first landed, I kind of felt crazy. Like I just, I had not ever not worked in 40 years. I've owned a business for 35. And so even though I didn't work in the pandemic, I think the craziness of the pandemic took up all my brain space, But coming to Portugal, I had to unpack that. And I felt I was unanchored, and I felt I had to get grounded. And it wasn't anything that I did, it was time.
Okay.
Because I wasn't used to not doing and just being.
Okay.
And just settling into this level of peace, this level of calmness, this level of contentment, this level of being able to just freely, meet people and be open to relationships and new friendships, that are not transactional, and it just took me time. It would be some days that I would be great and I was up and I was going, and it was some days that I just needed to take a nap, and I just needed to let that process happen on its own. It wasn't anything that I needed to do. It was almost like a self-purging, and to release the old me and start to identify who I am now, opposed to who I used to be. Yeah. And the one thing that I absolutely love is meeting people here in our new life. No one cares what you used to do. You still carry that as an entrepreneur. That's the first thing, what do you do? Oh, this is, we go into salesman mode, and we don't have that. And so again, getting accustomed to who I am now versus who I used to be is what's bringing me the peace. Being able to spend time. I mean, we were very busy business people and, 2 ships in a night, and so now we get a chance to decide what we're going to do, not only each day, but just, even on this house sit, making a decision, let's do a house sit, so that we can see how that feels doing that together. We have the opportunity to design our life or redesign and reimagine our life. And with that comes the peace. Yeah, I would say that's where my peace. And I know as long as I'm at peace and happy and content, it transfers over to him, because he does kind of hover.
Yeah.
Leave that woman alone, Jean. Leave her alone.
I can't help it that I'm a fantastic, wonderful husband. So
let him do it. Let him do it.
Actually, Jean, I wanted to know from you, like, what would you say to men who are watching? We don't get a lot of y'all on this channel, so I got to take this time. What do you say for men who are watching who
have doubts?
Have doubts, or like are not sure about reimagining their life? Like, talk through your experience a little bit.
For me, and I say this all the time, basically you have to let things go. You have to let things go, because it's going to be different. The things that we and I'm going to just say in general, men, what people think of that men enjoy, that men like to do, that men just, wake up every morning saying that, I want to, it's football season. I want to watch football, get together, watch football. I want to go out with the boys and have a drink. I want to go do all of these things. When you're making a transition like this, especially if you're married, now there are 2 sides to this. Single men, they can come with a totally different perspective, because they can come here and live out of a duffel bag or a backpack in an efficiency apartment and just enjoy life and travel. We know a couple of gentlemen that they're always gone. One guy we know, he basically rents out his place as an Airbnb and travels all the time. But for married men, men who are with, who have significant others with them, you have to take into account there's somebody else with you. And the biggest thing for me, and what I've told other gentlemen before is that the significant other that you're living with, do you like them? Because you're in this together. You're in this together, and there are days where you're going to spend hours just talking about things. Can you do that with your significant other? So everybody can say they love their wife, but do you like your wife? To where you can sit around and for us today, sit at a cafe for 4 hours and just nothing but talking, or just admiring what's going on around you, things like that. That's part of that piece. Literally, you can sit there. We go to a cafe, and you don't have plans on staying there that long, but you end up staying there for 3 or 4 hours, talking, just kind of going through life, what you want to do, what's next. One thing I say all the time is that I don't have a schedule. I don't want a schedule for anything. So when you come here, just understand that for other men, you really have to think about what you want out of life. So that could be the same old thing. It's not going to be the same thing. It's not the US, or it's not wherever you're coming from. You're going to have to get accustomed to that. There's community here. There are a lot of men married. Like I said, you're going to have some of us on a live here soon, but everyone has to come here with their own set of values and understand that you have another person that's there with you that you're going to have to you spend a lot of time with. And then you guys are going to have to make a lot of decisions together, just like we do. I mean, decision making is every day on what you want to do.
Because we do know some couples that the pressure of a move like this has really kind of created some issues, so you have to be ready for that. I guess the term, do you like them? Like he said, you can love your spouse, but do you like them enough to go through this major move? Some people can land here and it's off and running, but some people, they go through this kind of weird transition. It's that space in the valley, the middle, as they're getting here. And I think that can be troublesome for some couples if they're not on the same page. You can't talk anybody into doing this. You cannot, I wouldn't advise it to talk your spouse into it, but you do need to make a case of being deserving of creating the life that you two have probably talked about or dreamed about, and being able to detach from family, friends, and whatever, the identity that you used to have, to create something new. And both of us have to be on the same page about that. You don't have to process it the same, but you do have to have a forward moving mindset about it and be open to change. Just be open to new things. All of the things you talked about are here, but there are so many other opportunities to live a different life. And you can actually write your story, whatever it is that you want to do. There's no one thing and no one way to move abroad, and definitely not to Portugal. I mean, we have so much that we could do. It would take us years to see all the wonderful things here in Portugal and spend quality time together, meet new couples. We are actually so excited about the couples that we are meeting and like-minded people, not all couples, but singles, and just run the gamut. And we're thrilled about that, being able to have time to intentionally build onto these new relationships, And so I know I just took over your question.
Well, the other thing I was going to say too, as far as when men, you're generally, in many cases, men are typically the breadwinner. They're the ones going out and doing something all the time. If you come here to make this transition and you're basically, let's just say you're going to be retired, you're not going to be working anymore. That identity that you had as a man in the household is no longer there.
That's right.
Not in the same way it was as you had it in the States. Right. You weren't going, and again, most families, most couples, both of them worked primarily. Generally, the male figure made the most. That's not always the case, but generally that happens. So what happens when that identity is gone? You have to develop a new identity. Just like Andrea had to develop a new identity from being an entrepreneur for 40 years.
That's right.
You know, it takes time and it's hard. It's hard. I mean, sometimes you just sit around and you just go, you know, sometimes she would say, did we make the right move? And I would say, yes, we did. I said, no, it's not going to be perfect. Nothing is perfect. You can't, I mean, there's not a perfect country in the world. You know, we decided on Portugal, but for years we thought Italy was going to be the place we were going to move to.
Okay.
Because we loved Italy. We had gone to Italy. We had been to Italy like 4 or 5 times, and we loved it. But when we came to Portugal, fun fact, we came in 2019. 2 months before we moved here, I found a video on my phone of Andrea. We were at a little shop, and she's looking at these hats and just kind of playing around with them. And she just looks at me. She goes, "You know, I could live here." Those were her words. I showed it to her, and we just laughed about that. Yeah. Because when we came back from Portugal at that time, we didn't have an idea of moving.
No,
the idea was to come back and visit more.
A seed was planted, though.
But because that seed was planted, when the pandemic hit and we started researching, it became a spot where we could go and say, no, I think we can make this home.
And the vicinity, Portugal to me is like the perfect landing spot, not Coimbra, but just the country itself because of the vicinity and where we're located. Yeah. And to go to Italy, where we love so much, it's just such an inexpensive 2-hour flight, you know, to go to France, you know, to go to Morocco. It's like less than an hour and a half. I mean, we're just, you know, the centrally located to visit the places Dubai, you know, just so many places. And that was a selling point as well, to be able to be here, have a lower cost of living. You know, I never say cheap, but it is a lower cost of living, you know, and to be able to have the freedom to, you know, consider retiring early. I'm 57, you're 55. And he's the one that I always remember. I'm like, babe, how old am I?
Somebody else can remember. You don't need everybody doesn't need to remember.
And so, you know, to consider, you know, whether we want to retire early, there's some things I think about. I'm an entrepreneur, so you never turn that brain off of what can I do, but I am being intentional about taking time to just be and heal and settle and grow and have the brain space to reimagine and not rush into being busy.
Yes.
You know, Gene is, you know, he's an educational junkie. So he's working on another master's degree and, you know, most of it is online. And so, you know, he loves education. So going to school for him it's like nothing. For most people, it's a struggle. And so, you know, we have space to just decide how we want to fill in those blanks. And it's a beautiful thing to have freedom to do that.
Yes. You said that this was the first time that you felt freedom. I would like to ask you a quick question. Does Exodus Summit get credit for y'all house sitting?
Absolutely. I would have never known about house sitting if it wasn't for you.
All right. And for anyone who isn't aware, ExodUS Summit, like I said in the beginning, is happening October 11th through 14th. I know we're going to see some familiar faces there. We've had someone else today call it a family reunion, and that's exactly what it feels like. Yeah. Our ExodUS Summit is for women and Black women and families that want to move abroad and want to move abroad quickly. And so if you know, maybe you're a Jean and your wife isn't on board, send her to the summit, right? We're going to get her on board.
And can I say this? I still attend the summit. I still attend because I'm still searching, like, do I want to find some side hustle? You know, I'm still growing into this new life, and I'm always getting education and nuggets, about moving abroad, some of the relaxation sessions from last summit. I needed that. I needed to be able to go into that deep relaxation mode, know that it's okay to take a nap, know it's okay to just be and not do. And so I still attend the summit, and have a whole book of notes, because every year it's something different,
Yes.
even though I already live in Portugal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. We're so glad that you still come. We're so glad that you're still an active member of the community. But mostly, we're so glad that y'all have made the move, right? You're out living your lives. 21 months, right? So you're going, and by the time the summit comes around, have been 2 years of you living this new life. You told us, you started out today talking about how the pandemic gave you some things. We think about, sometimes we get to difficult times in life, we think about what it's taking from us. But you started out this conversation saying, here's what the pandemic gave us. It gave us time. It gave us an ability to reimagine our lives. And listen, boy, didn't you? Boy, did y'all. Reimagined your lives in such a wonderful way, in such a wonderful place. I'm so glad that you've landed in Coimbra and have found it as delightful as I have. I saw it just, in passing for a few days, but it's just a delightful place. And I'm glad that you're there and in community with people, and that you're loving this place and this time for yourselves. Even though you're at the beach now, you're in.
Yes, we're in a beautiful Argolf right now.
Yeah.
But we do spend time in Lisbon and Porto. We were just at Halisi's, 60th birthday, and we're all over the place. Because we did ship a car here, so we can get on the road.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we shipped a car. Again, research, and found a wonderful company to do that without all the crazy that you hear about online. And we love the train and we love all the transportation. But when you want to be able to, get in a car and just go, we have that ability to do that. But you're more than welcome, both of you.
Okay, thank you. She said it. I heard it. Thank you for being with us here today. We really appreciate you.
Thank you. And don't be disappointed, Stephanie. A YouTube channel is coming. So
okay, good.
I'll look out to be interviewed about our channel at a later date.
Please. Yes. Wonderful.
If you're watching this video now, links are in the description to Exodus Summit 2024. When someone gets her channel up, we'll have links to that channel as well. And we also have a link to a quiz that will help you decide where you want to go. Maybe Coimbra is not for you. Maybe Portugal is not for you. Beautiful places. Check it out. But if you're like, I don't think that's right, check the comments, check the description. And in there's a quiz that will help you figure out some starting places for your search, because that's often the hardest part for some people. So on that note, thank you very much. Thanks for being here with us and our special guests. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
You guys take care. It was a pleasure.
You too. Thank you.